Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And it is very, very ironic for a man like Humza Yousaf, who's constantly criticising Westminster, constantly moaning about Westminster interfering in Scottish politics, in Scottish matters. He does not like it at all, and he's always moaning about these things. Until such time as he needs their help. And then he goes cap in hand, on his knees, kissing the ring and saying, please Westminster, please help me. I've got some legally bound targets I must hit and I'm completely incapable of doing it. I need your help. If it was an independent Scotland, of course, he wouldn't be able to do that. And that is, of course, the irony. He's booked himself into a right corner. He's got no way out. And his only option is to beg. Well, let him. Child poverty is a terrible thing, but it's a problem that has been exacerbated over the last 17 years by a government who are dead set against spending money where it needs to be spent and instead insisting upon wasting it on the wet dream of independence. All the money for the last 17 years spent on independence causes could have lifted every child in Scotland out of poverty. But they've elected to do other things. And now it's coming back to bite them. They have 6 years. And by 6 years, they have a target to meet. And they're not even close. And with the massive black hole in their budget, which is set to grow and grow and grow, and more people leaving Scotland, with fewer people wanting to invest in Scotland, things are going to get far worse. It doesn't help that you've got a moron running the finances of the country. Let's take a look to see why Humza Yousaf, a man who hates Westminster with a passion, is now begging them. Here goes. So Humza Yousaf pleads with Westminster to help the SNP hit its own child poverty targets. When I see child poverty targets next to the words SNP, I often associate the fact that they want to make so many people, so many children into poverty, and they haven't made that number yet. And so they keep doing policies to increase child poverty until they hit a number. Most parties, of course, you assume they mean to reduce it. Not so with the SNP. After all, they are the ones most responsible for creating child poverty. The First Minister refused repeatedly to say if the Scottish Government would be able to meet its own legally binding child poverty targets without the help of the UK government, despite wanting to break up the UK before they need to be met in 2030. He can't do it. Of course he can't do it. He's got 6 years, less now, clock's ticking, tick-tock, tick-tock. He's got this time. It isn't going to happen. And the reason it isn't going to happen is because the people in charge are very, very stupid, very, very incapable, and I think deep down don't really want it to happen. Because people who are not in poverty, people who are happy, people who have a bit of money, they don't vote SNP. It's only SNP is the party for the losers, isn't it? As soon as you're happy, as soon as you're content, as soon as you're in any way wealthy, you want to keep that. You don't want to be paying high taxes. You don't want to be looking to divide and and create hate and division, because that makes you poorer. It's only by uniting and trading and things like that that wealth is created. And so once you are happy, you don't vote for these losers, and that's the problem. And also, you tend to look for people that aren't incredibly stupid because you want a stable economy. And again, you don't vote because these people are, as we know from experience, dim. Anyway, Humza Yousaf pleaded with the UK government to help him hit the SNP's own self-inflicted child poverty targets, as he confessed it will be difficult and challenging to meet the legal goals. By difficult and challenging, he means impossible. This plea came despite the Scottish Government repeatedly insisting that it can go it alone with the powers of independence. Really? Well, straight away, one of those things has got to be a lie. Or both of them have got to be a lie. Either way, they can't both be true. The First Minister held a press conference in Edinburgh on Wednesday to boast about his administration hitting its lawful interim target of reducing the percentage of children living in poverty to 18%. Basically 1 in 5. This is how bad it is. He wants to reduce the number of children in poverty to about 20% of all children. 1 in 5 children in poverty is their target. Isn't that a very very bad target. Maybe 99% should be your target. 99% not in poverty. It should, of course, be 100%. Probably unachievable, but 99% is a lot better. And all the money spent on independence over the years, all the court costs wasted, all the wankery that's done, all the stuff you've printed, all the foreign embassies, all this, you could easily have lifted all those children out of poverty. And so not doing so has been a conscious choice. And of course you feel guilty about it. After all, it is the SNP who have, for the last 17 years, put all those children into poverty. Remember, 17 years of the SNP. That means every child in Scotland now has only ever known the SNP government. And that's why so many of them are in poverty. However, getting back to this, it's also stated that it would stay at this level until 2027, putting the legally binding target of getting below 10% by 2030 in doubt. Mr Yousaf repeatedly refused to say if the Scottish Government was capable of doing this without the help from Whitehall. And when they can't say yes, they mean no. It's the rule of politics. If you ask them a yes or no question, whatever the answer that they can't say, you know it's automatically the other one. Can you do this? Yes or no? And so on. Obviously they can't. Anyway, this comes on the back of the stark criticism from poverty campaigners who blasted the budget this year, which includes the cuts to the likes of affordable housing, putting even more children at risk, literally at life-threatening and sexual abuse risk. That's what this budget does. But this is the SNP. And all those people who vote for the SNP, remember, this is what you're voting for. Putting children at risk and creating this massive uplift in child poverty. Feel good? Feel good for voting there, do you? Tick that little yellow box. Endangering children. Why not? We know the P stands for predators, peds and pervs. You might as well put in there child endangerment as well. The SNP also failed to lift its flagship Scottish child payment to levels suggested by charities, instead only putting it up with inflation. This much vaunted plan to help lift children out of poverty, which does no such thing. And when you're only raising it by inflation, all it means is you're keeping the poverty levels more or less where they are. You're not reducing them. The director of the Child Poverty Action Group in Scotland, John Dickey, said it is bitterly disappointing that the Finance Secretary has failed to deliver the £30 Scottish child payment that the First Minister said he wanted to see, and at the same time has cut a housing budget vital to bringing down housing costs that push too many children into poverty in the first place. What do you expect? This is the SNP. They care not one jot for people. It's all about power and wealth for them for when they leave office. It's all about getting people to fly first class all around the world to pretendy embassies so they can pretend and have the illusion that they are in some way important and powerful. It's an ego trip for basically incompetent wankers. Along with the failure to adequately fund the expansion of childcare and employment support central to the government's own child poverty plan, it means this budget amounts to, at best, a stalling of the very real recent progress made by the Scottish Government. And at his press conference, Yousaf was quick to call for help from Westminster so that he will not fail on his aims, as he was asked about the prospect of hitting the 2030 child poverty target. He will fail. Well, he won't fail. He'll be long gone. He'll be a footnote in history by the time this happens. And whoever is in charge at the time, and it'll probably be Labour by then, they will probably fail to hit it as well. Because it's such a bad position now, no matter where you start from, no matter how long you've got, it's a hell of a job to change it. The Herald reported that he said, Humza Yousaf, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be challenging. What they didn't say was the third one. It's going to be impossible. He said, this is Humza again, that is why I'm calling on the UK government to help, not just here in Scotland, but right across the UK, lifting the two-child benefit limit, introducing an essentials guarantee. Why? Children are a choice. Children are something you have if you want to have. He said these actions will cumulatively help to lift a further 40,000 children in Scotland out of poverty. Anyway, he's going on about this. He said he detailed the disappointment that he was snubbed by Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer after he invited Keir to come and discuss this issue. Keir Starmer doesn't want to get involved in your problems. They are, after all, your problems. It's a devolved matter. Nothing to do with Westminster. Why should You wanted these powers, Humza Yousaf. You've got them. You deal with them. You've made your bed. Now you sleep in it. Coming up. So there we go. He's failing at everything, and now he's failing in the one thing he promised to do. They actually made a law that they had to, by law, get it under 10% by 2030. They're going to break the law, aren't they? I wonder if the kids of Scotland will take them to court. I do hope so. These people are so dim, though. They are so utterly stupid that they cannot foresee the future. But then they keep wasting money on crap. It's unbelievable amount of waste. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.